This is the Between Extraordinary Part 19. It's still a night phase. There is a strange cabinet in the center of the hall, the Wolf King's Manor. And the Wolf King, well, ostensibly steward, but actually the Wolf King, has arranged 6 little tests for the group. It was originally a big party, but Lady Florence blew up one of the chambers, and that caused everyone to flee except for Hargrave House and the last 3 chamber occupants. There's the Amethyst Chamber, the Emerald Chamber, and the Sapphire Chamber. There are these curios cut into gems of corresponding colors, which can be placed into the cabinet door, which will unlock it to reveal something. And you have 3 of those from last time. We saw Lady Florence going into the Sapphire Room and encountering Theodora Brathwaite. Her emerald or her sapphire curio is around her neck. We went to the Amethyst Room, Ms. Balakwa did, to encounter her old friend, Greco, the second-sighted boy, in the Amethyst Room. We don't know where that curio is. And Jakob went to the Emerald Room. And I'm going to tell you, Jakob, that your curio is underneath the glass cloche with the Emerald Orchid.
Fair enough.
And so that is where we are at. But Dom, you're actually talking to the Slugger, who is a new man, renewed. He's got a new attitude. Must be the new moon. Who knows what's doing it? But he is here. And I can't remember how that scene resolved itself, or if we're in the middle of it.
I believe ravished might be the
oh, that's right. That's right.
verb.
That's right. You two are in flagrante delicto in the Wolf King's manor. So let's just pick up with, I think we're going to like really put the night move through its paces today as a way of sorting out what these scenes look like, because I haven't given it much thought on purpose. The setup. Greco invites you to sit down after a little bit of verbal repartee, and you said you did last time. I recall that, Ms. Balakwa. Ms. Balakwa, how do you know Greco and the demon you sent to torment Greco are working together right now against you?
I mean, I should have seen it coming. I want to say it's like a bad staged seance where the they would have levers and such to knock underneath the table. I think the demon is underneath the table, and I just sense the chicanery.
Very interesting. Do you suppose it's there, like the body it's attached to is there, or it's just the demon manifesting underneath the table?
I just love the idea that this little girl I decked out to go to Cremorne Gardens is still in the same outfit and the head just kind of lolling by a ribbon.
Yeah, that's great. Greco is going to lay out in front of you a number of divination tools, rune stones, tarot cards, excuse me, crystal ball, some other things. And he says, I will let you choose the weapon. I understand if you want to choose tarot cards as a crutch.
So when Victoria last advanced, she actually got the witch's cupboard and took a crystal ball into her inventory for my move. And I think that I am going to choose the crystal ball in this moment.
Okay.
Because my darkness, my spirits have evacuated due to my conditions. So in Victoria's mind, there is a certain amount of like, what light can I channel through this crystal ball?
Mm. Very good. We'll come back to this. Jakob, to get the Emerald Curio, you have to lift the cloche that the Emerald Orchid is underneath. If it even is the Emerald Orchid, this could be a trick.
Good point.
And so I guess I think I just want to leave this in the hands of the night move. What are you, either as Jakob or as a player, scared is going to happen if you lift the cloche and fail to get the curio?
Yeah. We back when we did the Emerald Orchid threat, we had a sort of a vaccination that was dispensed, and I am curious, given the existence of this here, whether it's been hybridized, that it's a new version that might be more lethal, more mutative. And so my thought is to kind of stand close to the door or near a window where there might be some potential fresh air, and from a distance just shatter that cloche with the hammer of Gontos.
Oh.
And see what happens from there. And if the shattering of the cloche also shatters the little orchid, yeah, them's the breaks.
So what are you afraid the orchid will do?
That I'm going to bust it into 1,000 little pieces and it's going to start a new colony of infestations. Spore out. Yeah.
It's worse than that. Of course, it has to be worse than that. That will happen. I think the Emerald Orchid will fuse with the Wolf King, making the Wolf King more powerful. And so let's get your dice on the table. I think this is going to be Hammer of Gontos, as you've described it. I think it's Composure, but if you want to make a case for another ability, I'm open to it.
Composure seems good enough.
Let's take a look at your conditions before you roll.
Nope. All right. Marked by the Coven, marked by Jasad.
No, you're good.
All right. So I've got a 7 on the table, which makes it an 8.
An 8. You'll be able to get the curio. The bad situation that we've outlined in the night move will not happen. However, the orchid itself will try to lay claim to you unless you want to put on a Janus mask and just avoid that completely.
What exactly does lay claim to me constitute? Do I know, or do we?
What exactly does what?
If the orchid lays claim to me.
Oh, yes.
Can you give any more details on quite what that entails?
I don't know.
All right.
Do you want to push your luck and see? It's going to be another night move, so who knows?
Yeah, I've only got so many masks left.
That's where we're at right now.
Right, exactly. I guess I will mark a mask. And it's going to be my mask of the past, where I have that recurring dream of the Cinnabar Temple.
Think about your scene and how you're going to, what it looks like when you successfully get the emerald. Lady Florence. Theodora has already bemoaned that she thought there were going to be more people here. But she's at least happy that you stayed. She drapes herself across a sapphire blue chaise lounge, and she says, "You have only to come and take the key." Do you approach to take it?
And if it's that simple, uh, quick clarifying question though. That I was dragging Lady Cressida into the room as well.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Are you seeing her in here?
She can be there as well. Yeah. I love
Okay.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, like she can be certainly background. I think I'm going to kind of like,
Or you can incorporate her into whatever you do. I mean,
yeah. I think I'm going to ask Theodora kind of directly here and just say, feel like there's more to this than simply approaching. What do you have in mind?
sometimes, Lady Florence, we have to take action without having all the information. That's what separates the dynamic from the dull.
Well, you did hear a bit of a blast a few minutes earlier, did you not?
I did, and it is a risk for me as well. Anything could happen.
And yeah, I think I'll just approach here, kind of cautiously. Like I'm not going and taking the thing, but I'm just kind of like nearing. Yeah.
She loosens the choker, which causes the jewel still attached to her, but it causes the jewel to slide down on its chain to her décolletage. And she says, "I wait."
Ladies, if this is going to go down like this, how about we make things a little interesting? And I want to like pull out the tincture of orchid nectar.
Okay, good.
And essentially suggesting that the three of us
get fucked up right now.
Exactly.
Get effed up on orchid tincture. Okay. What do you suppose? Let's do the night move. What do you afraid is going to happen if this doesn't go well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that like my previous experience with this gives me some type of advantage, and so I can kind of get the edge on whatever Theodora has in mind. Of course, it could swing the exact opposite way, right? And that like I am leaving myself open as
Well, let's
I
go deeper. What do you
this.
think Theodora has in mind? This is your chance, Mike, to define the scene here.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, let's do a little reverse imperialism here. I think that she wants to sort of claim me as some type of possession.
Oh, interesting. It's worse than that. She will claim you and Hargrave House.
All
the
my
building.
Little pets. Okay,
the building,
just
not
the building,
not the institute. Yeah, not
my
the
little
organization.
pet cage.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how it's going to happen, but it will.
Okay.
If we put it at stake. So there's a lot at stake. I like this. I think this is probably going to be sensitivity. And are you going to? Is that tincture a thing in your personal quarters?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
I will expend it here, especially if it's going to be sensitivity.
3 dice.
Right. Oh, it's a 8 minus, but I think it's only a -1, right? Yeah, so 7 still.
Take a condition marked by Theodora Brathwaite, but otherwise,
okay.
The scene is going to go as you wish it to go, and you will acquire the gem. I hate to suggest, Dom, that in the amount of time that this has all taken place, that you and the slugger would be finished by now. But perhaps we are having a lull, and the slugger says, let's get out of here. Let's go somewhere. Let's go to Shoreditch. Somewhere a little rougher, a little less macabre.
We will, after. I have business here to attend to.
Oh, the Wolf King, I suppose.
Well, if he's here, all the better.
He's here. Can't you sense him? Can't you feel him?
What's gotten into you? Just this morning, you were bemoaning your continued existence. Not that I'm complaining. I appreciate your continued existence.
He says, I just feel like maybe there's something in my blood. You'll probably see the bite marks on his body.
I think Dom will pull back one already mostly pulled back collar to get a closer look and say, oh, what have you done?
Ms. Balakwa, the demon / Greco, inform you that the Wolf King has laid a trap somewhere in the city. It's Greco and the demon's job to look through the crystal ball to find out where the trap is and trigger it. It's your job to find out where the trap is and prevent it from being triggered and to save people. If you do, you get the purple gem as well. And Greco says, so, are you willing to put your powers of divination up against mine? Or do you want to turn around now to avoid humiliation and, indeed, possibly causing many innocent people to lose their lives?
Perhaps this is something that your young mind might not comprehend, but decades from now, sitting withered in your old age, you might think back on and shiver. But my powers are not in divination, boy. And your power is short-lived.
Then that sounds like you are open to the challenge. He begins looking into his crystal ball. Are you going to do a ritual here?
I would very much like to do a ritual here.
Yeah, that's great. I think the benefit you're going for is pretty straightforward here, I think. Observe another place or time. Revisiting the move here for a bit. You have to roll a sensitivity. What's the nature of your sacrifice right now? What do you do?
Well, that's an interesting predicament.
You actually don't have the dark entities in your periphery right now.
Uh-huh.
And you might
I don't even
discover
know.
it may not even work.
Uh-huh. I don't even know if blood's going to summon anything at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I still will find a fletch sort of blade in the sleeve or a bodice nook, and I will nick the palm of my hand and just cover the crystal ball in it and just unnecessarily linger on the smearing of the blood onto the ball, it being as intimidating as possible.
So you're just kind of psych him out at this point, is basically it.
It's 100% what I'm doing.
Yeah. This is a problem. The dark entities are no longer with you at this moment because of what happened to you in the amber room. And you can hear the demon underneath the table saying quietly to where only you can hear, I'm willing to help you here, but you have to let me free.
I have an interesting question about that, Jason. On my hand, covered in blood, I am wearing Rebecca Balakwa's ring that does seem to attract and compel demons. Could I have some sort of advantage on persuasion or like convincing this demon to help me? Or do I
think that ring, I think if I remember correctly, that ring is part of the reason why you can even why you even had control of the demon to begin with.
That's right.
And so he just basically his bargain is basically like, let me go so I can run free and do whatever demon shit I'm going to do, and I will help you right now.
All right, so Victoria is going to agree. I think
because the demon wanted the ring, right?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened. So I think Victoria will either reach out with her mind and communicate with this demon as quietly as possible. Yes, I will free you, but you have to go to America. You must leave this place. You must leave and never come back to London.
Deal. And okay, good. So you'll get your roll, and let's see how it goes.
Just a flat, I think, unless I can use a crystal ball of my own to give me some sort of an advantage.
If it's not your personal quarter, is it in your personal quarters? You have it in your personal quarters.
In my personal quarters.
Yeah. We could say you have that on. That you're basically looking into each of your own crystal balls. Yeah.
Delightful.
So you can mark that and get advantage.
All 5s. That's a 13.
Very good. Very good. Be thinking about two things. What the trap is out in the city and how you're going to warn people to escape. I was actually going to make you all like leave and go deal with it, but I won't do that. For your 13, I'll let you use magic to get everybody out of there. So be thinking about that.
All right.
Jakob, please give us a scene where you acquire the emerald.
All right. This is going to take a moment to describe. Bear with me. It's going to be good, though. So as Jakob brings the hammer of Gantos down on this cloche, it shatters and this green spore burst just erupts out and fills the room, and his lungs kind of start to hitch a little bit, like kind of concerned that this is a mutated version of the orchid that we previously encountered. And then his brain kind of melds with memories of Martian civilization and this recurring dream that he's had of the Cinnabar Temple of Udrbar. What it looks like, the temple itself, is a double torus shape, kind of an electromagnetic field that rolls back in on itself. In the center, where it spills back down, there's a rain cloud and a water cascade with this lush garden in the center. On the outside of the temple, you see these lozenge-shaped windows that kind of writhe around. Innerly, it's all like this pale, pearlescent blue, sort of almost see-through stonework. And yet outside the windows, you see this whirling storm of rusty orange, like winds blowing past really quick, filled with dust and debris. And the furniture there, where there's chairs, they don't have 2 arms, they have 4 arms. Where there's a place to rest your feet, there's not space for 2 feet, but 4 feet. all the kind of physiological things, handrails are doubled up as well, which seems to conform to this way his limbs have been splitting. So this is what the Cinnabar Temple of Udabar looks like. And recalling it, Jakob also kind of recalls his true Martian name, Ulysses, and has a vision of rising up, lifting out of this double torus of the temple, ascending through the rusty debris of the Martian atmosphere after the Venusians destroyed the planet. And it kind of, it's him hurtling towards Earth, even though he doesn't quite, like, he sort of knows it's him, but doesn't. And then that brings him back to this shattered cloche, the broken glass. He realizes that it visually looked a little like the interior chamber of this temple. And then he's kind of has a moment of like, oh, I'm fine. I'm not harmed by some pathetic earthen orchid. But then he looks down at his skin, and there's this like fine, sort of shimmering green texture akin to that mantis eyeshadow that he retrieved from the emerald orchids. He's kind of got this slightly faint green otherworldly glow. The Martian is finally showing some of his true colors.
Nice,
and then he walks over and plucks the emerald off of the table.
Your turn, Lady Florence.
I've pulled out the tincture and I just say, ladies, I've found that just a drop on that sweet spot at the end of the tongue will take you to places that you could never even imagine. Here, let me show you. And then sticks out her tongue and just like drops a bit of the tincture on the tip and curls her tongue back in. And then this happens with each of them. And I think from a cinematic standpoint, like the scene turns very Mario Bava. Just really, really deep blue. There is just like big voids of black that like would be studio space, but feels mysterious and makes it feel like they're in this other place. And I think that it's sort of like cutting between these visions of all of their individual ideas of sexual deviancy. I think for Lady Christina, it's maybe they're dressed up as like Bronze Age goddesses, and yeah, fondling each other, so on and so forth. For Lady Florence, I think she's just sort of like pacing the room and maybe even obviously hallucinatory vision, but like guiding in people from outside, like calling more people and maybe even the other Hargrave House members and that type of thing into this, and this sort of almost like an orgy like room of like all of these characters that we've seen throughout the whole thing, as Lady Florence is kind of like pacing the room and watching very intensely and staring at everyone in their eyes, and ultimately finding this the sapphire, what was the term again? Sorry. For the
I've been saying a curio, but
the curio,
it's just like a carved, like in my background.
Yeah. And she kind of like slips her hand over Theodora and nabs the curio, as Theodora is in her own space as well.
Yeah, I'm now wondering if I'm using the right word or not. I think that's what they're called. I could be wrong.
Cameo, not curio.
Cameo. Yes, I've been saying the wrong word. Cameo. Thank you. I was like, I don't think that's right, but I'm just still saying it. Cameo. Thank you. Mr. Constantine, I will give you an information move with vitality. In order to, well, like basically your encounter with the slugger might tell you something about the Wolf King. So if you want to go ahead and make that, you can. I'm going to put you at disadvantage though.
I don't think I can reasonably use any of my items here, so I'll take it. That's 7.
Let me find you a clue really quickly. Let me think on it for a bit. Let's check in with Ms. Balakwa. Ms. Balakwa, so what is the trap that the Wolf King has set in London, and how are you going to, well, first you find it before Greco does, and then you're able to disable it. So what is it?
I think that the Wolf King has sent many of his pack into the city. And I actually am, like, from the vision of my crystal ball, scurrying through the streets of London at ankle level like a rat through the streets. And we see just a pan up to the Royal Albert Hall, and it's all lit for an evening's performance. Everyone's gathered inside, and you can see shadowy figures posted up around the building with torches, which is very odd for this sort of neighborhood in London. And then it begins to occur to Victoria that all of the gas lamps are lit and the building is completely populated, and that there might be arson, fire traps sort of waiting to engulf this upper crust set of London.
How do you stop it?
I want to reach for darkness that isn't there. So instead of snuffing out all of the gas lanterns, I think instead Victoria's going to use some sort of light, something about being touched by the man in the sun mask, and this light that's infected her allows her to turn up the brightness on all of the gas lamps that are in the hall already, and that people flee thinking that there is fire when in fact it is just getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and there is no smoke to be seen.
Greco says, "Congratulations. You only bested me because I was distracted. As I was gazing through the crystal ball, I looked upon a very interesting group of women who stared back at me. They have requested my presence. They seem to think that with their help, I might be able to achieve a true apotheosis in my skills." He holds out his 2 fists. The gem is in one.
I think that Victoria, still kind of reeling from this, like, seeing another time in space, is going to try and like use the last whiff of it to just flick him in the forehead. So he sees all of the times, like in a supercut of her aunts ripping the intestines out of something or sucking the moisture from something else. And I want that to startle him, so he just drops whatever hand it's in.
He opens both hands. Out of the right one falls the purple cameo. Out of the left one falls a severed tongue, which begins bouncing and waggling on the table. He grabs it, and the tongue moves between his index finger and thumb as if it's a mouth, and his index finger and thumb are speaking with the tongue and saying, "You were always so clever, our dear, dear niece." But don't worry. We have learned much in the days we've been here. We shall see you very soon.
You know, I look forward to it not at all. She'll just scoop up the amethyst cameo from the table and take the blade that she used to cut her hand and just flick it at the tongue at his hand and walk out the door.
Indeed. So that just leaves a clue learned from Dom. Dom's very simple. Here's your clue that you learn from your encounter with the slugger. The Wolf King does not currently have a physical form and is looking for a vessel. You can all walk in on the last little bit of the sapphire orgy. And from there, as the evening winds on, with your 3 remaining keys, place them into the cabinet. It opens up to reveal a 7th cameo, a moonstone cameo, which is a clue for the Wolf King. Your time to strike the Wolf King is now. If you are going to strike, I will give us a 10-minute break because I need to take a 10-minute break to take care of Pup, but also to give you all a chance to look at your clues and decide how you're going to deal with the Wolf King. So let's take 10. We are back. Hargrave House is deep in conversation about the Wolf King. Let's do a quick reminder for folks watching the video as well. You've got two questions. What makes the Wolf King most vulnerable? Complexity 4. Resolve the threat by using the beast's weakness to physically destroy it. Or what curse binds the beast to the legacy? Also complexity 4 because of the way things shook out with the legacy. Resolve the threat by lifting the curse, returning the beast to its home. Your clues are there was a group of rebel priests that burned themselves here at Kenwood House. The Constantines are posed with wolves in paintings. The Constantines hired someone to help them get rid of a curse. We have these silver sigil stamped rings, a dark room that the light of the sun cannot reach. The Wolf King does not currently have a physical form and is seeking a vessel, and then the Moonstone cameo. Who wants to go ahead and propose something and break it down for me while I enjoy this cappuccino?
Sponsored by.
This answer question sponsored by Nespresso. Yeah.
So we've been kind of angling toward the what curse binds the beast to the legacy, because a lot of the clues seem to really lean in that direction. So we've discussed either the Constantines originally being in league with the Wolf King and having a break, a schism, or whether the Constantines were have existed alongside the Wolf King as the traditional vessels, a family
intriguing
line.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very interesting.
But either way, I think both the painting with them posed with the wolves and them hiring someone to rid them of a curse works with either of those interpretations.
It puts the hunt in an interesting perspective too, doesn't it? Like,
yep.
you've been hunting the Wolf King, presumably to destroy him. But is it possible you've been hunting the Wolf King instead to sever a connection with the Wolf King and your family, which I find really fascinating?
It also kind of works with how the Wolf King left Dom alive when he killed the rest of the
Right.
Constantine
That
family.
is a good point. Yes. Yeah, very, very interesting. Okay, so I'm into this idea a lot. Start working through the clues.
So we talked about maybe the Wolf King being kind of a primeval force, not necessarily on the same league as like Persephone and friends, but something
Quite
old
old.
and powerful.
Yeah, yeah.
And the dark room that light cannot reach is not so much a physical location, but a cosmic location,
Oh, interesting.
the place where the Wolf King as a force was originally summoned by the rebel priests who sacrificed themselves on this land, not the house, but the land 3,000 years ago to draw it forth.
Oh, very interesting. I like this idea of that clue in particular as a metaphor, right? For what kind of is happening here, which I think is really great. Okay, so just to be clear, we're doing the second question, right? Binding the beast to the legacy.
Yes.
And so we think that these priests are ancestors of the Constantines?
Or they were the group that originally brought the Wolf King here and bound it to the
To a
Constantines.
Constantine. Okay, very
Yeah,
good.
like
Yeah.
Let me, can I
Yeah.
float something? Or, what if one of those priests was a Constantine? And maybe the one who survived was essentially the vessel. And that's sort of like how the curse is tied, is that the Constantines were part of this group that summoned the Wolf King here in the first place.
Yeah, I was going to offer
And-
something similar to the proto Constantine, that one of the members of the priesthood was in this ritual bitten and was the first Constantine. I don't know how far the Constantine lineage goes back there.
And it could be that that Moonstone cameo is some type of like a focal instrument in that summoning. That, you know, to get to that cosmic deep room, we are channeling through the reflection of the moon.
Yeah,
And
which I think is really interesting because it kind of it again like kind of has it's almost like the moon that werewolves are drawn to, again almost as a metaphor, right, for this original like moonstone thing, which I imagine was not carved as a cameo back in the ancient world, but this is its current form. Right. But I like it a lot. Oh, it could be that the clue is of that clue, or the actual like operative part of that that seals the deal on that clue, is what the cameo is of. Like what
About to say, does
is
it look like Dom?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like what is it carved to look like? That could be, you can add that context to the clue if you wish.
I mean, if we want to seal in the final clue, it could have the sigil, which I think could be the Constantine's family sigil.
Okay, interesting. So that was my next question: is how do these rings play into it? I mean, I think silver and the moon is a pretty easy connection. The sigil
Yeah.
can certainly be a connection, but what's the importance of the rings themselves?
Didn't we say the participants in the ritual were wearing those?
I had tossed out an idea that the Wolf King, up until this point, didn't have a permanent vessel, and that there was a ritual with these silver rings and the Moonstone cameo that could make his fellow werewolves be like temporarily inhabitable.
Oh,
and
I
could,
see.
like
Oh,
flit around a little bit.
I kind of like that. Like, there's something to be said about the idea of the Wolf King has no physical form except through a Constantine. Like, he has to come through a Constantine, and I think that's a fantastic. And a lot of the clues point towards that. I like that idea, Sarah. This idea of the way that the Wolf King is able to operate in the world, at least until he gets his physical form, is by binding his servants with these silver rings, right? and maybe using them almost like as a network of to project his power into the world, which I find really fascinating. If everybody's open to that, I think that's kind of where you were going with that, and I like it a lot. Very surprisingly straightforward solution, really, if we're being honest, which is maybe best. I think there's maybe nothing it doesn't have to be that complicated. I think it works really well. I love the idea of the dark room that the sun cannot reach as a metaphor. I'm really into this because I think what the place you have to send the Wolf King back to is probably it's almost certainly some fragrant void, astral plane space, right? Which is our room the sun does not penetrate. So I really like it a lot. Ben, do you want to roll? It'd be a pretty good roll. It's a +3. So yeah.
All right. Ten.
That's what you want. It is correct. You have unlocked the corresponding opportunity, which is resolve the threat by lifting the curse, returning the beast to its home. Returning the Wolf King to his home. So I guess at this point, this is what the remainder of the session will be. It will be fairly straightforward because you got a 10. We can probably handle most of it just in narrative. I am curious, does anybody have any thoughts on what the process is to lift the curse? Like, does Dom have to die here? Or does there have to be some kind of did you have to transfer it to someone else and then kill that person? Is there some spell? What is the deal here? Put the Wolf King in the basement. Just shove him in the Hargrave house.
Bring it to Hargrave house.
Yeah. Everything goes in the basement. Who has thoughts on that?
I have half a thought that somehow that the nature of the slugger being werewolf and
did we all just lose Sarah and Brian?
Yes,
Looks
we
like
did.
Looks like it. I'll pause this until they come back. So while we were waiting on Brian and Sarah to get their internet sorted out, Ben and Mike and myself, we came up with what this looks like, basically, what's going to happen here. So essentially, it was kind of like a little, so there's been a thing where I have been accidentally calling the slugger Dom, basically, for the last 4 sessions. And it's a total mistake on my part, but it actually inspired a thought, which is, what if the Wolf King thinks the slugger is Dom, or is a Constantine, or is at least good enough for his purposes? Because Dom and the slugger they've had this connection, in physical and emotional, but also supernatural and spiritual, back when they did their original little basement moonlit glade flower bonding weirdness thing that they did back then during that threat. So I love the idea. So we've basically settled on this idea of the slugger is going to be the medium by which the Wolf King comes back and is then dealt with. So I think that's really great. If everyone is into this, that's how we'll proceed. You got a 10+, which means it is pursuable without any particularly extra complication, but I do think there's going to have to be at least one roll that will decide the fate of the slugger. I think that has to be the case. So let's take 5 to give you all a chance to think about what this scene looks like, and then we'll come back and we'll do a die roll, narrate it all out, and see what happens. So take a quick 5. All right, let's do this thing. So for the remainder of this night phase, it's handling the Wolf King. How does this kick off? What does the scene look like? What do we do here?
I think I have a question potentially aside. If we have all of the pieces of the key, what's in the box?
It's the Moonstone.
Oh, the Moonstone. Oh, of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay. So I think we're all in agreement that we have to burn this place down.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. All right. So then what?
So thinking back to the ritual that the slugger and Dom initially partook in, perhaps we have to go back to the site of where the rebel priests first brought
Okay.
the Wiroku into this world, which it must be nearby.
Maybe that's why burning the house down is important.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I imagine Victoria would be the expert on the ritual side of things.
Very good.
I mean, just so I as a player know, because there was that cutting in and out, am I trying to facilitate the possession of the slugger in this instance, or
The
are we
Wolf
trying
King
to
is going to embody or come back into the world via the slugger, and then you're all going to throw him back into his dimension so he can't ever trouble this plane of existence ever again. There's a danger for the slugger, right?
So I would be able to counsel everyone of like, okay, well, the slugger needs to put on one of these silver rings, but it doesn't fit his giant fingers. So it's like on a chain around his neck. And she's pressing the moonstone into his hand. And I say, hold it right here next to the ring and kind of position him in a circle. She does not have any dark forces to work through this, so at this point it is consultant work.
It's pure consultant
only,
work.
right? Like, this is feng shui rituals. But the Wolf King's gonna have to do a lot of possessing on his own.
Yeah, the Wolf King's gonna have to like just take the bait here.
I do have a wolf skull that always points toward the beast. Maybe that could.
Oh, that's
come in
perfect.
handy.
Yeah, you utilize that. I love that.
I feel like it's worth pointing out that Jakob has breath like gale force winds, and so if we need to huff and puff and blow this house down, I am here to help out with.
And the other,
you get the gong show gong for that one, I'm afraid.
what Lady Florence could contribute here is that she's been studying the slugger and knows all of his moves and that type of thing. So has a really good sense of like his like
Physical
quirks and like
capabilities.
like his capabilities. So I don't know if that's like she can help distinguish like when it's the Wolf King acting versus the slugger acting, or if it's a sort of like tactical type of thing of like the Wolf King can only do what the slugger would
Yeah,
be able
you might
to
have
do
to just
anyway.
help deal with the Wolf King physically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I love that. So the scene, building up this scene is great. So you burn down the house to reveal, I think you have to like reveal the foundation underneath, which is marked out with all the symbology that the ancient priests used. Ms. Balakwa gets the slugger in place. The slugger, as he's clutching the moonstone and the skull laying on his back, he says to you, Dom, he says, "This might actually be the night that I die."
No. No. You see, I am many things, but especially a stubborn bastard. And so when I say no, it means no.
Now, I will say we have the slight problem of you need to open a portal to the Wolf King's realm, to the Fragrant Void, or whatever this interstitial space is. Jakob, this might be where you come in, because you're a portal. We've kind of established that that's kind of your whole deal.
Yeah.
So what might you do, Jakob, to then open up that space to deal with the slugger, with the Wolf King?
Open up the space, you mean the foundation, or which
Or
space?
no, or open up the space to the Wolf King's realm.
Oh, to get to the Wolf King's realm.
Yeah.
I don't know if this quite fits the fiction, but can I kind of do a sort of inverse Shield of Korathor to sort of open a passage rather than close one?
Oh, I like that. That's fun. Yeah, that'd be really great. Just describe what it looks like for now.
Have we destroyed the house already, or is the house?
Yeah, we're saying that the house is
So we're assuming the
destroyed,
house
the
is
foundation
okay.
is revealed, the
Okay.
slugger is in place, he's
Yep.
feeling existential.
So the stones that have the foundation laid out, Jakob kind of sticks his fingers into this crevasse, like a little crack in the masonry, and just sort of yanks and pulls apart the stonework. And there's sort of a quick sprouting of plants that were trapped beneath that. And then he keeps pulling apart, and it opens up this kind of dusty, yawning chasm that goes downwards. But oddly, there's a glow of moonlight coming up from below.
Lady Florence, how can you tell the Wolf King is in the slugger's body right now?
I think it's kind of that again thinking of like werewolf cinema, like his flesh, his body, his muscles are like expanding, like something is trying to like burst forth. Like it's flexing too large, too big, and maybe there's even like the occasional pop of really long hair that's piercing through the skin.
Ms. Balakwa, you can tell your aunts are watching this. How do you know they're watching with great, keen interest? And I don't think they care about the slugger or the Wolf King. They care about what Jakob's doing.
So I actually took Beacon in the Dark as an advancement just the last time we did this, and I'm thinking that Victoria's skin begins to glow. Like she can feel the presence of her aunts and this threat, even though she's not casting the ritual, she starts to glow like moonlight under her own skin, that they're focused.
Dom, this is your hunt. What's your plan for dispatching the Wolf King to his dimension?
I think he sets his blades down on the ground between the two of them, and he's going to try and he's going to try and get the Wolf King to take him, and then hopefully redirect into the portal.
Oh,
He's
interesting.
going to try and steal it back.
Oh, interesting. So you're basically like, this is clever because if he had gone straight to you, you probably wouldn't have had any control over the situation.
Right.
But because he's here in the slugger first, you like have an advantage of sorts. I think this is almost certainly going to be a night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
The slugger will kill Dom. He doesn't need him anymore.
I think it's worse than that. The rest of Hargrave House will then have to deal with the slugger / Wolf King. And so this is probably going to be with I'll give it to you with vitality, but at disadvantage.
Do you have an advantage with that wolf skull to cancel that out?
You certainly can if you can mark it, if it's a thing you can mark.
I will do that. So vitality flat. Six.
Not great. I think the slugger, really the Wolf King, feels what you're trying to do And he says, in the slugger's voice, "No, no, no. I no longer have any need for the Constantines. This is a new era. I will at least do you the kindness of completely terminating your blighted line." And we just see the slugger, with all of his shortish slugger power, and with a bit of grim irony, punch you through the heart and out the other side of your chest. Mortal Kombat style. You slide down off his massive forearm onto the ground. And then the slugger turns to face the other hunters. Unless you are putting on the Janus mask, Mr. Constantine.
Not. I'm doing something different.
What are you doing?
I'm using the Eternal Man.
Oh, very interesting. What is that?
When the keeper narrates a hunter's death as a result of a missed roll, I may mark a box below and say how, through sheer brute strength and force of will, and perhaps the machinations of the occult, I actually survive.
Ah, do tell.
Dom's body will fall to the ground, and I think as the slugger king turns around to face down the other members, you can just see Dom's silhouetted form against the fire pick himself up, gore pouring forth from his chest, and then the flood starts to slow, and the skin there knits itself back together. And I think the slugger is a little diminished as this is happening. He kind of, the muscles, the overcharged muscles shrink a bit. And Dom grabs the slugger by the shoulder and I think just puts a hand on the slugger's head and just says, "No." And he's going to try again to take the Wolf King.
You can go ahead and do that. I like where you've brought this to.
Still vitality?
Oh no, just go ahead and finish it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we see the slugger.
Well, let me back up. What are the mechanical implications of the Eternal Man thing? Does it say, like, does it affect a roll, or it just lets you avoid dying?
Just lets me
okay.
Survive.
I want another roll then. Basically just a do-over.
8.
Okay. The complication is this. You will be able to trap the Wolf King in his dimension, but in order to bring the slugger out, you have to go to that dimension and battle the Wolf King.
Oh, yes. Let's do that.
And you can take as many Hargrave Houseers as you wish with you.
I think maybe as the portal starts to swallow the both of them, Dom's going to say to Lady Florence, "Stay here," knowing full well that Lady Florence will do whatever the fuck she wants.
Jakob and Victoria, what do you do?
Watching Dom and the slugger get swallowed by this blackness, Victoria won't let them do that alone, knowing full well the implications of what it does to a person. So I think that she leaps through.
Jakob is like sticking his multi-fingered hands and trying to like hold it open, sort of that like, I'll just pull it back a little more open and they'll be able to come back out. And it's like, this isn't working. Kind of like looks around at the rubble of this smoking ruins of a house, and it's just like, oh, fine, and slithers in behind them head first.
The Wolf King's realm is a realm of mist and shadow. It has the feeling of the fragrant void. It is perhaps a pocket within it. But it's like you're standing on a moonlit moor, mist rising from the ground, though there are no trees or sky, or at least no stars that are discernible in the sky. But everything has this sort of pale glow. You can see, swallowed by the mist, the slugger laying on the ground between the group of you and the Wolf King proper. The Wolf King proper is a tall, probably about 15 feet tall, gangly, shaggy wolf beast with long spider-like limbs and multiple wolf-like heads on prehensile necks. It is a creature of chaos. And if it has to be trapped in its realm again, it's going to at least ensure that it enjoys this last kill. And it strides forward to attack. What do you each do?
I want to know if in this misty, dark place, Victoria senses any of the darkness that she has lost.
No, in fact, you're very cut off from it because there's only one power in this place, and it's the Wolf King.
Mm-hmm. And presumably the light that I have inhabited also is completely extinguished here. And
you
so
are looking for a more terrestrial approach, I feel. A more material approach.
Victoria doesn't do that, so Sarah's going to think about that for a minute.
What are you going to do, Jakob, when you see this thing? It can kind of attack all of you at once.
I'm going to try and fling the javelin of Jajatar at it and pin it to some spongy part of the void.
I love it. Lady Florence, how do you do battle?
I think Lady Florence is gonna kind of take like strategic command here, and be sort of like shouting orders to the rest of the crew of sort of like, watch that left leg, like all of that type of thing. Grab the tail, parry right, all of that sort of stuff.
Very good, very good. Dom, what's your approach?
The direct one.
Yeah, I thought it might be.
With blades.
Yeah, indeed. I like it. Ms. Balakwa?
I would love to give a help action. No, I don't. I literally can throw a quartz crystal from my witch's cupboard at, like, ineffectively just hurling it at one of the heads, missing entirely.
Victoria, now throw that quartz crystal.
You got that body from Kilburn Abbey? Does that do anything to help you in the void?
Currently aligned with Greco underneath his table, conspiring with my aunts in a completely different dimension. Thanks,
I like the idea of Jakob tossing the javelin to essentially pin the Wolf King in place so that Dom can finish it off. All of this perhaps at the direction of Lady Florence. So let's have that first, Jakob. Night move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Oh, it just goes right through this thing. Like it doesn't even care about the javelin.
I think it's worse than that. I think it turns the power of the javelin back on you.
That is worse.
It is worse. Go ahead and roll with vitality.
All right. Oh, well, that's a 7. Blah.
Okay.
Better than nothing.
I think, I want to read what that is, technically speaking, what it does. Let's see here. The Javelin of Zazatar, which screams through the sky. You do have to tell me, how does reality shudder when the javelin hits its mark? Because it does hit its mark, and that might affect the reality shuddering might be the problem, right?
How about this? Since we've gone through a portal into a pocket of the void, that the way reality shudders is that it kind of opens a crack back to the mortal world.
Oh, that's good.
And I like that. I'm trying to think of, maybe you can find a better, worse place as a complication for it to be pinned to, but like, pinning it back to not just where we were at the Kenwood house, but like pinning it to a wall in Hargrave house, still alive, still thrashing, or something like that.
I like the idea of it shuddering and opening up enough of a crack for its followers in your realm to come through, and maybe that's what Lady Florence and Ms. Balakwa have to deal with, right? Is a few werewolves, coming to the Wolf King's aid, but the Wolf King is pinned. Let's deal with those werewolf followers. You see them. There's we'll say there's 3 of them. They lunge in through this tear, and they are in sort of half man, half wolf, state. There's a name for that, and I can't remember what it's called. And they are lumbering toward you. Furries, yeah. Ms. Blackwell, what do you do as you are approached by a werewolf?
So I have a large bulb of holy water that I pulled out of the basement of Hargrave house.
Very good.
And I want to add a little context that it says holy water on the bottle, but it's actually just acid.
Okay.
And so I would like to hurl that at one of the wolf men fairies.
Indeed. Yeah. I love it. This is going to be vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That I will somehow botch this throw and be deliciously and beautifully disfigured.
I think it'd be deliciously and beautifully killed by the werewolf as well. So
understood.
Go ahead and roll with vitality.
Oh, vitality! I don't even know what that stat is. Never do this.
Is this bottle a thing in your equipment?
It is an item in my personal quarters.
You can mark it to get a
advantage.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have a +0, so I'm gonna want that. Advantage, which makes it a 6.
Yeah, very good. So not great. Not great. It shatters. It was not a terrible idea. You do see smoke and singe coming up off of the wolfman's fur. And it just tackles you, pummels you, and we see it just like whip its head back as your viscera sprays out in a fan here in this misty realm. Unless you're going to put on a Janus mask.
Yes, please.
Lady Florence, you have 2 to deal with. What do you do?
So Lady Florence is still half high on orchid tincture. Not looking for this as a mechanical advantage, but I think partly why she's like commanding everything is that she can she's still in the void, like half of her brain is in the void, and so she can see sort of a 4-dimensional type of thing, right? Like she can move, everyone else is moving in 3 dimensions, and Lady Florence is moving in 4 dimensions. I think that she like sees like, oh, I can make this cut and I'll be behind them and like just like whipping around in different places and that type of thing. I think she just like rolls up her sleeves and like cracks her knuckles and just says, "Welcome to the real bout club." And she's just gonna like get into a fist fight with these werewolves.
I love it. You know, this is vitality, and let me take a look at your vitality. You're good to go. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I'm afraid that I'm not afraid of the werewolves. I'm afraid of getting lost in the void here, like
Oh,
getting stuck within one of these folds that I'm trying to exploit.
it's worse than that. At the end of all this, the Wolf King will use you as barter with Jazad.
Oh no.
Go ahead and roll with vitality.
Ooh, it's an 11 on the table, so it's a 13.
Nice. Go ahead and deal with these creatures.
Yeah, I think for anyone looking, like they are just seeing like fists and feet just like flying everywhere, kind of like disconnected from Lady Florence. Oh, I kind of like this image of just like her head is staying stationary or seems to be staying stationary, and you just see her kind of like limbs just like wailing on these werewolves and just like ripping at them as she sort of like wears them down to a point where she just like that kind of like classic like cracks the jaw from the skull type of thing on one of them. Yeah, and it's just like almost like becoming sort of like werewolfian in her own way at like gnashing and getting like far bloodier and more gruesome than I think anyone's ever seen. It's normally like these sort of like noble fancy fisticuffs, and like this is like actual street fighting. Like this is applying all that knowledge that she's been picking up from the slugger over the course of the past few months.
And for your 12 plus bonus, I will let you get Ms. Balakwa and Jakob and the slugger out of this dimension safely. You will be able to lead them to safety while Dom deals with the Wolf King.
Got it.
Speaking of Dom, how do you deal with the Wolf King? He's pinned by the Javelin of Zazador.
Yeah, I think he's going to do the it's going to be very reminiscent of how he dealt with Julius. He's going to approach, and I think as the Wolf King is struggling against the spear pinning him, Dom's definitely going to take some cheap shots with the knife, with the knives, and then when it's all done, he's not going to make a snide remark. No comment. Just going to just try and remove the head.
I don't need to roll. I like it. Go ahead and just describe how this wraps up. There are multiple heads, but maybe there's one that's...
Oh, yeah. Remove the biggest head,
Sure.
the central head.
Yeah, okay.
And no, actually I take it back. He's going to get the heart.
Oh, okay, nice, good. Yeah, go for it.
I think as these heads all snarl and slaver at him, he's going to take the knife, that surgical pointed tip that he used on Victoria, to dig out the leaves and just start cutting. And he's going to keep his eyes on the Wolf King's eyes as he does. And when he gets through the ribs, he's going to reach in, he's going to grab the heart, and he's going to step back and watch as this dies.
There's a special rule on this threat that says after this threat is resolved, I will ask the legacy to frame an intimate scene with a fellow hunter in which the legacy ponders if they can ever truly be free from their namesake. The other hunter can grant that freedom by affirming the legacy's growth and comforting them. If they do, the legacy may describe how they retire from monster hunting and go on to live a normal life. They are now retired from play. If the other hunter does not believe they've changed, or the legacy chooses to stay in the business, you continue play as normal. And so I think we'll just epilogue this epic night phase with that scene. Who are you having that scene with? And where is it at? What's going on?
It's got to be Jakob.
Makes sense. Ben, do you have a preference on which way this goes? I mean, I don't know. It's in your control whether your character exits or not my control.
I mean, it's ultimately his control regardless of what you decide, but yeah.
Let's see how the conversation goes.
All right, Jason, can you point me to that prompt again?
I'll just clip it
for you
real quick.
Okay, thanks.
It's in the actual text of the sheet.
I got it.
Let's take like a 2-minute break anyway. So
sounds good.
Okay, so where's the scene happening, Dom?
It is still happening at the smoldering remains of Kenwood House as dawn rises on what they have done. I think if the other hunters want to still be there, they're welcome to it. But Dom is going to be kind of just sitting on the grass, looking at the spot where they returned from.
Jakob nudges one of these flagstones with his toe, kind of tipping it up out of the soil for a little bit. It says, these stones were laid a long time ago.
Dom will look over and say, then I bet they appreciate the air.
And how are you after, destroying this sort of thing that's been hounding your family for so long?
I'm fine.
Yeah, you always say that.
Yes, I do. I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, you free your family from that sort of hereditary curse, and then the sort of the book is wide open, and yet the pages are all blank.
You're insufferable.
A bore, I think is what you called me, but yeah, essentially.
That too. He'll smile a bit as he says it, though. He'll say, I don't know how to be anything but this. And there's nothing left to hunt.
Yeah, I look at your blades, probably still stained with blood, and say, you say that, but you gave me extra time with the Limehouse lurker, a chance to rehabilitate that child, and look at what your relationship has been with the slugger. You easily could have and probably should have destroyed the slugger ages ago, and yet you've carried on in some different capacity that's not purely destructive.
It's a little destructive.
Transformative might be a better way to look at it. The fire destroys, but it generates warmth. A little bit of comfort.
That it does. Do you think there's a normal out there for me.
Normal? Like a normal, like other people?
I suppose.
Mm,
Or a
I
normal
feel like
life.
yes. Sorry?
A normal life.
I feel like yes, that this has been this burden hanging over your family since before you were born. You were simply born into it. And of all those generations that weren't able to overcome that challenge, you were able to. And that you've earned that normalcy if you choose it.
Do you think you'd come with me?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think you'd get on without me?
Mm. Wouldn't be easy. There'd be a gap for sure.
Lady Florence would be very angry. I say that as a motivating factor.
Understandable. Sometimes it's best to, I don't know, twist your knickers a little bit.
Would you be okay without me?
That's an interesting question. I don't know that I'm much longer for Hargrave House myself. I feel I might have to go find a little bit more of my own legacy. Find out a little bit more of where I'm truly from and what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, maybe when that's done, come find me. It's bound to be a more interesting story than all the shit about sheep.
I overheard you saying earlier to the slugger, I appreciate your continued existence, and that seems apropos here.
Yeah. Then to our continued existence.
Should we hug?
No.
Because
But
my fingers flex out.
well, I was going to say a handshake, perhaps, but you ruined it, Jakob.
Sometimes I do.
All right. I suppose I have something to ask the slugger. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we will. I'm sure you'll make the choice that's right for you.
There's the first time for everything.
I think the slugger will do whatever you want him to do.
Interesting. Maybe we'll see what things are back like at Hargrave House and whether the slugger's there. But I think Dom is going to. He doesn't have much to pack, but I think he'll be leaving.
Very well. The rare Hargrave House hunter who gets to go live a normal life at the end of all things.
And I think he would bring the slugger with him if the slugger were game.
Indeed. I'm curious about what it looks like when Ms. Balakwa frees the demon of Kilburn Abbey. I am curious about some Janus masks that are probably owed at this point, but I don't want to end this session on those notes, and so we will wrap right here and go straight to the dawn. Rewards. there's only one reward for the beast. If the beast was slain, Mr. Constantine, please name a body part of the creature to display in the Hargrave House trophy room.
Oh, it's the heart.
Very good. Dawn questions. Lady Florence. Everyone did answer a question and resolve a threat, so you get both of those. Echoes of the Night do not apply, however. Lady Florence, I do think you leveraged your social status to get the upper hand, but you did not have a face-to-face encounter with the mastermind. Ms. Balakwa, you did have enough of a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity, I think. And
well, I mean, I looked and stood in front of the Wolf King.
It's true.
It's got to be a dark entity, right?
And you did perform a ritual, so
I did.
At a great cost. Mr. Constantine, it doesn't matter so much, but you will have enough XP to take all your ultimate advancements anyway, so I think you're good to go there. And Mr. Walsh, did you stick up for yourself while being bullied by another hunter?
Does being called a boar count as being bullied?
I think I like the way you kind of called out Mr. Constantine a little bit in that scene. Like, even though it was like friendly, you were still kind of like, I feel like you were sticking up for yourself by like saying, if I recall correctly, this is what you said about me, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to, in that character arc, as I'm getting less bullyable.
Did you go on and on about life back in Wales?
In that same conversation, I referenced sheep, but that's about it.
So, I don't think they quite.
They were badger-faced Welsh mountain sheep.
You talked about your beloved back home, and as a roundabout way to ask how Dom felt about the slugger.
Was that the same conversation? Does it matter? I don't know.
Yeah, it was. It's been a very long night phase.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, we're looking at 2 sessions here. Okay, fantastic. And we'll save Janus Mask for next time, as well as a few other little narrative housekeeping things from this night phase, and go straight to Stars and Wishes. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
There were a lot of really good visuals in this session. And I'm just going to call out those stars because they were great. There was the moment, like, we have to imagine that we were standing in front of Hargrave House, or excuse me, Kenwood House, while it was burning for a while. And so there's that fun silhouette moment, but also in the failure when the slugger as the Wolf King reached through Dom's chest and there was a hole where the heart had been pulled out. As that flesh stitched back together, you could see the flames through Dom's body. Like, there were a lot of that kind of high tier visuals in the game today, which I adored. Lady Florence for having the let's get high solution to a puzzle room, I loved a lot. It was great. I also noticed you were just talking about it, Brian, as we were ending here, but not only that you were kind of sticking up for yourself as you were being bullied by Dom as being called a bore, but also that Jakob really holds a grudge, right? Like, you're going to have that in your back pocket. I just see you kind of being a little bit catty about it. Oh, I'm a bore, am I? As you start to get stronger. So it's fascinating to see that, like, evolutionarily as your character progresses. Star for that night phase into the wedding episode transition we did. That was a nice little stopping point. I just loved how Dom can find the peace to walk off into that moment in life, and that was really like a great place for us to stop this session. So I star for that too. God, it was just a really great game today. Wishes, I too have some feelings about how this demon's going to get freed and some masks upcoming, and we're all cusping on that last couple of check marks. So using any threat masks if we have them, but otherwise these are the last few notes for these characters, and it's that on the precipice excitement that I have going forward. So hooray.
Yeah, absolutely. I really quite I really enjoyed this whole sort of arc. It was really great. A star for just, I guess, like for just taking the opportunity to retire Dom. Like I think there's like a world where like it's an interesting tension between like the needs of like the game needs and the story needs, you know? And I think that the choice to retire Dom is clearly a story need, and it's not something that I think a lot of people would take necessarily. And so I a star for that, because I think it was the right move to serve the story. Like this was kind of the end of Dom's story, right? There was like not anything else to do here. I mean, obviously Dom could have just, you know, still been there in the background fighting Jazad, right? That would have been perfectly fine. It would have been great. But there's also something to be said about like, no, this is like where this arc ends. My connected wish is, uh, I mean, I assume you're going to make another character, and we're going to have this character for the last few sessions of the campaign, which is okay because this campaign theoretically keeps going after Jazad. So like it would just be like the first character of the next campaign, right? The sort of like late season, you know, like special guest introduction before, you know, who becomes a regular character in the next season, right? It's that whole thing, right? Um, or not. I don't know. We can talk about it, Ben. But I kind of like this. It'll be interesting to think about how like where it goes and what we do with it. Um, Regardless, I think the game will be it's hardy enough to deal with whatever's going to happen. Um, but yeah, I really like that. Like everyone got a chance to like really shine as an individual, both like in their capabilities, but also just in their story. Despite the fact that like this night phase is very much kind of like Dom's, you know, kind of like Dom is sort of central in this like extended night phase, and so nobody was like a complete supporting character, right? Like everybody kind of had their chance to shine, which I think is great. And yeah, I loved all of the. I like that we were able to kind of like draw on some things from earlier parts in the campaign. I thought that was really great. Include even going back like to like personal quarters items, but also like earlier threats and like other like little dangling plot points like the demon of Kilburn Abbey and all that stuff. That was all really great and fun. It kind of feels like we are pushing towards the end of this group's story, right? Which I think is great. Yeah, but I think it's all I've got. Just yeah, really excited to see where it goes.
I can hop in the chat. Mike had written a directive from Lady Florence that said, Victoria, just stay alive during that void confrontation, which I love the idea of. What else do we got? The idea that the coven is watching Jakob kind of constantly is really fun to kind of have that lurking menace and how it pops up in ways that I don't expect. I like that quite a bit. Sarah, for Miss Balakwa doing a consultant work. I like that idea that, you know, for the moment, I'm just consulting.
I actually really loved seeing Ms. Balakwa, this vulnerability with Ms. Balakwa, like not having access to her powers is really great because it had such big implications for the story, right? And so it was really good.
Yeah. And in that same vein, flicking Greco in the middle of the forehead. And the way you described that imagery of your aunts and all the history behind it was really neat. What else? Ben, you had a suggestion in the chat that Jakob goes green in response to the orchid, and I really like that, to finally make the Martian be green. So thanks for that. And what was the other one? But Lady Florence just constantly gambling with anything, doesn't matter the stakes, and just willing to pummel people the way Mike described the sort of fourth dimensional state that she was in was really neat. And then lastly, the idea that this answer a question sponsored by Nespresso. I love this idea of professional gamers. Suddenly we got the patches like the NASCAR racers. And it's like, you know, this audio brought to you by Yeti Blue Microphone kind of thing. I think that there's a room for sponsorship here. So if anybody's listening who wants to sponsor, you know, send your Nespresso to Jason, and on we go.
Did you have a wish, Brian, or was that the wish that we commercialize?
That we get sponsorship.
I don't know. My microphone's looking a little dusty. Do I have a wish? I do at least wish that Jakob's only got 2 masks left, the second of which takes him out of play, and I do wish that the dice will keep me in play long enough to have another face-to-face with
I
Jazad
wonder if you're
before
all
I'm
gonna be able to
gone.
finish, you know, like I really truly do. Like I think that like this is sort of like this is the sort of inherent tension of Jazad as a threat, because Jazad always comes in after you're all quote unquote hurt a little bit, right? So it's intriguing. We'll see.
Let me add one other thing there. And Jason, I think you probably scripted it a little bit this way for the Martian playbook. I finally unlocked the vault of the Cinnabar Temple, and the thing that I'm switching to in our Dawn reallocation of my my vault keys to the vault is this one that I have. It's a new one. You can momentarily project your consciousness into the Cinnabar Temple in order to avoid an emotional or psychological condition. I'm hoping I can dodge a few conditions to last a little longer. But I like that it's written in that way, that as you're getting fragmented, you have the option to maybe dodge a few bullets.
Stars for me for not to make it a multiverse thing, but the stuff that hits the cutting room floor, I think is really interesting. So for instance, the idea of the orchid fusing with the Wolf King, and that was really intriguing. And there's a lot of moments like that where like I think that there's it's worse than that, and especially this group is like, ooh, that's might I kind of want to fail the roll because that's a really interesting thread to go down. So I just think, yeah, it's really interesting how these games develop and how there's so many like interesting ways that things could have veered but don't. And I guess like tied into that, of course, like a star for just the intertwining of the Slugger and Dom throughout the entire campaign, and this being such like a fitting end. And that like that feeling of it, right? Because like even though that's a side character and was just kind of like a novelty getting added on to Dom, that sort of like developed into this like deeper, richer connection that really drove the second part of this night phase pretty deeply. And I know Lady Florence will be sad not to be able to follow Dom around like a lost puppy. And other star for the look on Sarah's face when the internet cut out. She was so excited about what she was going to suggest, and you could just see it in her eyes that like she had this like epiphany moment, and it was so disappointing that it cut off, but also very special. And then I think my wish is it's kind of similar to Brian's. I'm down to 2 masks left. My special custom move is kind of a mask as well that intertwines with those. And I'm kind of like, I really want to get a failure so I can check and have that next thing on the table, because I'm really excited about that coming into play. But of course there is like this very like real danger of Lady Florence's arc like needs to get to Jazad essentially, but like
Lady Florence's ending is truly, does Jazad win or does Lady Florence win, right? Like that's you know, like everybody else might have like they might meet their ends in whatever way, but yours is literally like who's gonna win between the two of you, right? Like is he gonna kill you or are you gonna kill him?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I'm hoping that it gets that far, but also that like I'm really intrigued in just like running this character, this play sheet down to like the absolute husk. So that's what I've been using all of my like things from the house and trying to tie that in, and like just burning every resource that I have to see if I can get it to everything is checked off at the conclusion of it. So that's kind of my wish, but we'll see if that works, because it's a very delicate balance as we close in here.
You guys do not have a lot of rope left, that's for sure. Not much runway. Were there any other stars or wishes? Well, or I guess Ben, you haven't gone yet, have you?
Yeah, Dom's gone. I'm still here. This was a great night phase. I really liked how many storylines kind of reached not necessarily their end, but a peak. We saw Victoria and the Man in the Sun mask, and also big star for Victoria glowing with moonlight. That was perfect, and I hope there's more to that. Jakob coming into his own as the Martian, and I think this is the first time you've mentioned your real name in play, so that was cool.
True.
And Lady Florence, the scene, with you taking on all of the werewolves. Welcome to the Real Bout Club. That was so good. And the interactions with Theodora. I'm hoping she made it out of the house before we burned it down, because I would love to see Theodora. I really enjoyed the structure of this melange of threats in the house. We got to see a little bit of everything. It was great. I really enjoyed where I thought the Wolf King was going when I wrote that threat was not where it ended up, and I loved where it ended up. I loved the kind of cosmic and primal implications. This was really good fun, and I am sad to see Dom off, but it did feel like the right thing. He could have stuck around, and he will absolutely miss not getting to punch Jasad in the face, but he's done, and it felt right. And if you'll have me, I would love to make a new character. It's impossible to read these playbooks and not have ideas. So I have ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Fantastic. Is that everyone? Okay. Great session. Great story. And I'm excited to keep going. And I will see you all. I need to check my calendar, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, I will see you next week. All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.